date that I was going to be going live tonight. I don't know, a little post thing, but we are going live tonight. What's up, Duck Rabbit? So I got the forge going, but we're not forging anything tonight. We are going to be doing some normalizing and talk about some projects. I've got a few things that I've worked on that I'm going to show y'all while we're doing this whole normalizing stuff. What's up, Jay? What's up, Jason? So we've got only a few weeks before Blade Show Texas, and I'm trying to get as many things knocked out as absolutely possible right now. Some 6-fire fight. So I'm trying to get everything knocked out that I'm going to be taking with me to Blade Show. I have got a lot of stuff done over here. I'm going to show you all one of each of these. I've got 2 of these each that I've been working on, and I've got everything ready for buffing and all that. What's up, Jeffrey? Yeah, I'm excited about seeing everybody in Atlanta too. So look at the chatoyance, if you want to call it that, and that handle. This isn't even buffed yet. What's up, Elton? Look at that guy. Haven't even had a chance to buff them yet. So these are the smaller EDCs that I'm working on. I finally got these to a point to where they're ready for buffing and an edge. And then I've got a couple of these knives that I started a while back. Okay, so these were some knives that I started a little while back. These were they were the shop build knives that I was working on. Forged these a little while back out of ADC RB2. Just a good camp knife EDC. That one, and then that beautiful handle material. Made 5 of these. They're all forged, everything like that. They have my little R choil down here. But I did 5 of these. I've only got a few more to hand sand. Whenever that's what I've been working on for like the past month. Whenever people were wondering where the heck I was going to be doing some more filming and Shop Talk Tuesdays and all that, I've been working on those projects and a few other projects. Now we've got to do some normalizing tonight. Yeah, all of those will be for sale. I'll have the 6 smaller EDCs with sheaths and everything on the website at the beginning of next week, and then I'll have, like Monday, I'll have the 5 EDC camp knives, those done towards the middle of the week. Of course, the 2 that are already finished, they just need to be buffed and edge put on. But I've got 3 more that I need to finish, and then I've got these right here. Okay, so these are what I've been working on today. So I've got 3 of these. These are about to go into the forge so we can normalize them. So I did preheat treat bevels on these. This is the medium-sized version of the 5 or the 6 small EDCs. So it's a slightly bigger blade. It has the little hookup on the end here. And it's a full 4-finger knife. These were forged out of the, I did one of these in a live stream, but these were forged out of the Willys Jeep Leaf Spring that I like never let anybody have. It's all my stuff. Anytime I make a blade with it, I keep it because I love that steel so much. But I've got 3 of these. These are all going to be a Blade Show. 3 of them. I'm going to go ahead and actually put them in the forge. So they can start coming up to 10. Two of them in there. All we're going to be doing is just bringing them up to 1600 degrees, letting them cool on top of the blocks that are right on top of here. 1600 degrees for your first round. And then after that, it's going to be a 1400 degree. So I've got those, okay? So I want to show you all the size difference between these, okay? So we have, that's the small one. Small, it's like about a 3 finger, a little bit over that. You can still get your 4th finger on there. So we've got those. So size difference. There's this one. This is the medium, okay? That's the medium. So you can see bigger blade, bigger handle profile, all that. What's up, Jeff Rose? It's okay, Jay. What's up, Kevin? So this right here, small. And all I was trying to do whenever I designed these profiles is make simple profiles that I could make and upsize them. So small, medium. I'm going to show y'all the big one now. Large. So this is the medium. This is the large. And I get a table over the I've got my my skateboard like chair thing in here. So that right there. Oh, might be showing something. Talk about Blaze Show. I'm going to be with Chad Kimmel, 13F. So if y'all want to come out and actually hang out and talk for a little bit, I'll be at table 13F at Blaze Show, Texas. Yeah, 13 Frank. F is in Frank. But yeah, this right here is the large. This is one of the ones that I wanted to keep for myself. I really, really love this. So this is a large, you wouldn't call this an EDC, you could, some people could, I guess. But that is definitely one of my camp knives. Look at the thickness of that spine. Prior to me doing the bevels or any of the weight saving stuff in the handle, this thing was super chunky. But it's looking good. I got all these ground out today, but I want to give you an idea from the small to the large. So if we just put them butt of the handle to butt of the handle, that's a small, and then there's a medium, and then this is the large. Good EDC size, closer to camp knife size. What I like about this is you've got a good guard right there with that finger choil. You don't have to worry about what you're going to do with this. You're going to have a beefy tip, nice thickness on the spine, easily be able to strike a ferro rod and all that stuff. But that bad boy is going to be an absolute beast. And as of right now, let's see here, balanced right at the front of the handle, right there. And once I go through and I clean up the tang a little bit, we'll lose a little bit of weight, but it should be balanced right about that center whenever we actually get it set up with handle scales. And the handle scales that are going to be on this are going to be nice. I'm going with black liners and Jade G10. So, I'll show you all that. We're going to go black with Jade G10 for pops. And then we're going to do a black lanyard tube. So you'll see the black tube, and you'll see 2 black pins, black liners with the Jade as the scales. The large is to pronounce. Yeah. So this is the other one that I was working on. So if you got the template for the one that I have on the website, let's go ahead. Put you over here, you over there. Give me 1 second before we start talking about all that. almost there. 1539. We want to be at 1600. We're going to go slightly brighter than that. Go for just a hair. So this right here is the one off the templates that I have on the website. So let's see if there we go. That's the template right there. You can get these on the website. This is the one that I forged in the live stream. I went ahead and did the bevels on it. It's going to look really, really, really good. That's a big knife. It's weighted real well. But I was working on that today. I ground out a lot of bevels today. It was a pain in the butt seeing how it's like 10 degrees outside. Okay. There. Bring that up a little bit more. So right now outside it's about 9 degrees. So I was like, if I start forging out there tonight, my propane bottles are going to freeze that fast. So that's why we're not forging tonight. I will be forging as soon as the weather, we got one little section of weather that's going to blip up and supposedly get warm-ish. I'll be forging then, but for right now, yeah, I primarily need to focus on getting all these knives knocked out for Blade Show. So, let's see here. You go ahead and come out. So we're going to let those cool, and we're going to go ahead and put the big old son of a gun and this, and here in just a second I'm going to talk about this right here, okay, and I can show y'all on the other knife, but we're going to go ahead and let those come up to 10. So let me read a couple of these real quick. Just get all 4 print outs. I agree. You should definitely do that instead of just getting one at a time of those. Just get the bundle. I use jade on a build. Very nice. Semi-translucent. That's what I was thinking about. And with the black G10 liners, I think it's going to look really nice. Especially on a handle as big as what's going to be on there. And I've got another handle that I want to show y'all on one that I'm working on. I'll be working on it after this. I might do some of it during this, but and then I'm going to work on it tomorrow, Monday, and a little bit on Tuesday. But see here, what part of Texas are you in? About 50 miles east of Longview, almost on the state line. I am just below Oklahoma, so I'm like right at the Red River, just outside of Oklahoma. I'm like where the planes hit and then it falls off. You like the big blade, bigger the better. Yep. Late winter for sure. See, I wouldn't really call it a late winter for like us because in where I'm at, it is the end of January, February, beginning of March where it gets super crappy, like every year. December, you could be wearing flip-flops and a tank top like half the years that you live in this town. But as soon as like the end of January hits, man, it gets super cold. It starts snowing. February is snowy and icy and cold. At the beginning of March, yeah, it sucks. I don't know if my bottles are just built different or something because literally snowed last week and it was fine. With these size of bottles, these little bitty bottles, yeah, they just suck. Like it really, the bottoms freeze off of them real fast. Like this one's already getting cold and the forge's only been on for a little bit of time. What's a good way to get a grip out of a hardwood handle? What do you mean by that? So, what do you mean by get a grip out of it? Like to have good gripping texture or just profile? Let me know what you mean by that. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, me and Duck talked to a person about it. Not slippery. So the easiest way to get one that's not slippery is don't take it up to a very high grit. If you want to finish it at like 220 and then buff it from there, you can do that and it will still have a nice texture to it. If you go up to like past 400, it's going to quote unquote be slippery. Now, if you profile the handle right, so if you put the right profile on it and the right swales on it, it can be something that is super smooth, but will have the right profile so your hand hooks into it. Also, you can go with like a micarta or let's say you wanted to do a burlap micarta. Those tend to have a lot of texture to them whenever it's all said and done. If you want something that's going to be smooth but still kind of grippy, do a burlap micarta. And they have all kinds of different types of burlap micartas. So when it comes to this, one of the things that I wanted to hit on, further back in here, and bring you over. Want that heat up. That propane's already going to run out. I was figured I'd just use the rest of that bottle. So this right here, the spooler and like the weight saving holes and all that stuff and the epoxy transferring holes. I was talking to, of course, you know, Duck and a few other people about this. I get a lot of questions about the fullers in the actual the handle, if it does mess up the integrity of the handle or the integrity of the knife. And no, it does not. This right here, the fuller really doesn't. You'll have a lot of people that Swiss cheese the hell out of their blades or out of their handles so that it saves weight and it gives holes for that epoxy to transfer through so that the epoxy is touching the scales and going straight through the handle and touching the other scale. So you'll have that. And a lot of them are to save weight because people want their knives super light. For me, even with how big this knife is, because I've made some ridiculously heavy knives, this is light. This is not a heavy blade. And it's thick. It's a thick knife. And it's a full tang and all that. But it's really not that heavy. Let me go ahead and give this a little bit more PSI, maybe. Okay, so when it comes to the fullers in here, I'll tell you what one of the big reasons behind this is so that you actually get a pocket of epoxy in here. So what's going to end up happening, and if you look at the way I do some of the knives, I will actually do the fuller. Well, here, I'll show you on this one. So I did the fuller from pin to pin. What's going to end up happening is that epoxy is going to go all the way from this pin. It's going to create a pocket of epoxy all the way to this pin. So there's going to be a bond from one pin to the next on both sides. Plus there's going to be a bond with where the handle right here. So it's just going to create a little pocket of epoxy in there. So typically what happens is when your tang is completely flat, whenever you squeeze those handle scales, you're going to have the tiniest amount of epoxy left in there. Some people will just go through and bevel their holes, chamfer them a little bit so you get an epoxy pocket right here, and that'll add a little bit of extra to it. But typically, if your tang is completely flat and you squeeze your scales onto there, it's going to push out all the epoxy that you just spread everywhere, and it's not really going to have that much of a bond. whenever you do the fuller in here, it creates that pocket. And for me, with this one right here, I'll actually have a fuller on the back side of my handle scales. And what will happen is epoxy will come and fill a hole here, pass through the tang, fill a hole here, and have a little extra pocket on the back side of the handle scale and fill it up there. So it's going to have an H worth of epoxy. It's going to have epoxy, hidden pin type deal, epoxy. And it's going to have a huge pocket of it that's going to be attached to the scales inside there. So it's going to have this like huge pocket of epoxy, and then I'll still have the little bit of epoxy that's on here, and then in here, and then in here. So it's going to do a couple of things. For one, it saves weight because you just ground out all of that. You didn't really mess with the integrity of it because you didn't drill a whole bunch of holes and make your tang super thin around here with a whole bunch of holes lining your edges. So this is just as strong as an I-beam would be, because that's all it really is at this point. It's got a wider piece, a narrow piece, a wider piece. So when it comes to this way, you don't lose really any integrity. So you just get the weight savings, you get a big pocket for epoxy, and everything's good. Okay, this one, go ahead and pull out here. Toss up there. Let the bigger one go for a little bit longer. I might have to go swap out this bottle because that ain't going to be too warm. Hang on just a second. I'm not going to disappear. And then I'm going to read your comments. Hold on just a second. I'm disappearing. It's a vanishing act. I wanted to burn through the last of that propane before I had to go fill it. Close it off. Close all this off before you go changing your. There. Now we're good. All right, before we talk some more, let's read some of these. Yeah, we had some confusion about that in the comments and shop. Yep. The fuller and then the handle actually allow shock waves to go through there. I watched you make football handles and copy your style. Hell yeah. Had money in the fuller. If you've ever watched Red Beard Ops, he actually created a knife that was a takedown that had a pocket on the inside of it that you could actually hide things in. Wire brush or hardwood. Yep. So you can actually wire brush and use a Scotch-Brite pad on things like, what is it? Winge or wingay. Winge wood. I'm going to show y'all. I've got a big chunk of it. So this right here, if you take this wood and you hit it with the wire wheel, you'll get a whole bunch of little pits that will come out on here, and that'll give you a nice texture on there. I got a whole bunch of this from whenever I did the Insanity builds, and I made the like cutting board style handles for them. Jason, how can you get a hold of you? Well, he was never there. What's he making today? Finally got to see the stream. Normalizing some knives. Yep. What's up, Chip? So real quick, Mr. Chris, this was one of the ones that this is one of the ones I was working on today. We have this, and then I've got this one. I'm going to show you all a set of handles that I'm going to end up putting on this right here. So, of course, this was the one we did the last Shop Talk Tuesday on. Look how fine and straight that edge is. But this right here, I'm going to do something different. We are going to be using this material right here. So this is like a jig bone type setup right here. This is camel bone. And I'm going to be using this with black liners and black pinstock. That's what I'm going to be working on. I might glue up the liners to the handle material today. But that is what's going on this. I want to see how it looks. I want to see how it turns out. I've wanted to use these for a while. I've had them just kind of sitting in one of my bins down here. I've got a whole bunch of bins on this bottom shelf. That's all handle material. It's 4 different bins and then like a cardboard box. Let's go ahead. Check the tip on this one and see if we can pop down. Not yet. But yeah, I've been just focused on trying to knock out as many of these builds as possible. I've got a total of like 32 blades that I'm bringing with me to Blade Show Atlanta. I'm going to bring the Insanity builds. I'm going to be bringing the double bladed dagger, the Darth Maul dagger. Bringing that. I'm bringing the sword from the Samurai Challenge. I'm bringing the Quran Buoy. I'm bringing the crazy one, the like World of Warcraft one that has the dragon scales filed into the spine of it. I'm bringing that one. And then, of course, I'm bringing a few different builds to this. It's going to be pretty cool. Can only imagine the yep. So I'm bringing those. I think it's going to be just the right amount of different blades. I've got a bunch of other builds that are YouTube builds. It's a total of, I think it's about 17 YouTube builds and 15 to 17 of the other knives that I've been working on. So it's going to be a good mixture of blades for people to check out. Let's go ahead. So one of the things that I worked on yesterday, and I don't know if y'all are going to be interested in me doing this on the channel. I've got another one that I'm going to be messing with, but I redid this axe right here. Worked on that this weekend. So that is a double bit. Just a little restoration that I did. So this was a double bit head that I got from my stepdad. It's a old German double bit head from a long time ago. I was able to go through, clean it up. It's a pretty cool profile. So this side right here is a little bit narrower. So a little bit of a narrower profile. This is a little bit wider wedge. And compared to my little hatchets, this was a blast. Did a hickory handle on it. Turned out real nice. But I've got a couple more that I got from him that are vintage as well. I'm gonna open this door just a little bit. Whew, it got warm quick. So I just don't know if y'all are going to be interested in me redoing any of those things. So I've got 2 more double bit axes that are very vintage. They're from the 40s, so 30s and 40s, and they're pretty awesome heads. And I was gonna they're gonna require more work to actually clean them up and then profile them again. But they are axes that have the bits are forge welded on them and everything like that. They're really cool. And yes, definitely watch out for my ankle. Let's see here. Those things are magic. Straightened out a warp, easy peasy. Good deal. Want to be forging myself right now, but 2-degree weather, 5 to 6 inches of snow, right? And yeah, I did the handle on that. 32 degrees Celsius with 80% humidity. 80% humidity. Here, I'm going to show y'all real quick. I didn't finish. I'm still here. Still here, guys. It's going to be so nice whenever I don't have to walk outside to go into that shop, whenever I get the door finished. So these are the other ones. And you can see the difference between the material that was forge welded onto here and the regular material. And let's see here. If you want to see, it's like glass portpa. I don't know if y'all can see that. That's the stamp for this one. Glass portpa. But that guy right there, I'm going to be redoing that one. And then this guy right here. Again, another forge welded one. So that's gonna be cool. This is a 3.5 pounder made in Germany a long time ago. But these are gonna require a little bit more cleanup than some of the other ones. It looks like somebody started working on it, but then they just kind of gave up. So a little bit of cleanup. This one's not going to be too bad, but I'm excited about it. I've wanted to mess with these for a little while now, and I finally got the ability to go ahead and screw with them. Okay, take the 2 that were already cool, pull them down here. Go ahead and put one of the longer blades in here. Now, we can go ahead and toss this guy in there. Let it come off the tin. But yeah. Stinky down here. I bet it is. So, is the seasons like flipped a little bit there? I mean, what's y'all's winter like down there, Chris? And what time of the year is your winters? Dox any of my old bosses recently? No, but he did get a kick out of that. They thought that was funny. Do I know why they're double-faced? In all honesty, I could only imagine that they were double-faced so that you had 2 edges and you didn't have to sharpen them near as much. Unless you're talking about that one that's up there on the wall. So with this one up here, one side has a narrow taper on it. The other side is more wedged. So you can get real deep with one of them and you can split with the other one. That's just me assuming. Okay, you know how assuming goes. The whole ass out of you and me type thing. That's the only thing I could think of on that, because that's the way that worked. Whenever I split all the wood that I had, I didn't split all of it. I still got a bunch of wood out here. What's up, Steve? I think it would work, 80 to 100% humidity. That's like the people who live in Florida and forge in Florida. I can only imagine how crazy that is. I've stayed in Florida several times, and each time you go outside and you're just standing there doing nothing, and you feel like you jogged a mile. So basically, again, right now we are normalizing. We have 4 blades. We need to bring them all up to 1600 degrees, let them cool outside the forge, and then bring them up to 1400, let them cool again. Now, with these, all of these have already been annealed. So the annealing step and the normalizing step, 2 different steps. I know out of the few people that are on here right now, most of y'all probably know this, but for anybody who watches this after the fact, that is not, an expert knife maker or something like that. So the difference between normalizing and annealing is when you anneal the steel, you're trying to soften it. So you bring it up to about 1600 to 1625, 1650, something like that. Bring it up to that, and then you let it cool inside the forge or in vermiculite, something that will let it cool as slow as possible. And that's going to let you anneal the steel, make it soft, put it back in its factory form, and then you're going to have a normalizing cycle, which again, bring it up to 1600 degrees. The only difference is you let it cool outside of the forge in steel air. You don't want a bunch of fans blowing or anything like that, because it's going to cool it down faster than it needs to be. So you bring it out, let it cool down to about room temp, but you can really just let it cool down to about 250, 300 degrees. And then go ahead, toss it back in the forge, and do grain refinement cycles. So you have annealing, making it still soft so you can drill through it and you can grind it real easily. Then you have normalizing, which is going to normalize the structure and get everything nice and where it needs to be. And then you're going to have grain refinement cycles that actually refine the grain inside there, so that whenever you do go to quench, you get a nice silky smooth grain structure. This is really important for whenever you are forging knives. If you are taking a knife that you forged, you need to normalize and grain refine. Because when you're forging, you're taking it and you're taking that piece of steel that was factory good and beating the absolute hell out of it. You're heating it up to all kinds of different temperature ranges. You might be going to 1700 one time, 1600 one time, 1800 one time, and you're letting it cool on your anvil really, really fast. So you want to make sure that you anneal it after you get done forging. And what I'll typically do is, if I'm going to forge on something for 2 days, if I forge on it and then I'm not going to mess with it again for another couple of hours or until the next day, I will do an annealing step. I'll finish doing the forging for that day, toss it in the forge, bring it up to 1600 degrees, let it cool, and call it done. And then the next day, I'll start working on it again. And then if I am done forging for that day, I anneal it again. Put it back in that soft state, relax everything, get it back to its factory, just reset. And then you want to do all your grinding, all your hole drilling, all of that stuff, and then you can do your normalizing. Perfect. So the big chopper that I have right there, we'll go ahead and turn this off for just a minute. Let the 2 that are down here cool just a little bit longer, and then I'll be able to toss them back in the forge. So the chopper that I just pulled out of there, that's also made out of the Willys Jeep leaf spring, and that'll be 4 knives that I'm bringing to Blade Show that'll be made out of that Willys Jeep leaf spring material. And whoever buys those will be, other than Matt Rich, who has a chunk of it because I gave it to him, those will be the only 4 knives that I sell that are made out of that blade steel. Every other one that I've made, I've kept and I love. Y'all have seen me shave with the wakizashi right here and cut myself with it in the middle of shaving with it. I've never sharpened that blade. I sharpened it the first time, and whenever I made that, I have cut actual trees down. And I've cut branches off and trimmed them down, all that stuff. I've had people over here, and I'll cut through like an 1.5 inch, 2 inch branch, one swing. And then I've done that for the last year and a half. I haven't sharpened it a single time. Every once in a while, I'll strop it, and it still shaves. It's ridiculous. That still makes no sense. But all of the times that I've used it to make swords or choppers, and I own all of those blades. So, kind of is what it is. When you're a knife maker, a knife collector, you kind of own some of your stuff. So, where was I going a second ago here? Normalizing. There is a difference between normalizing and grain refining. They're the same step-ish, kind of. But normalizing is the first step that you do. When you bring it up to 1600 degrees and you let it cool outside the forge, that's a normalizing cycle. Grain refinements are going to be everything else that you do after that. You're going to do, I do a 1600 on most of them, 1600 and then one grain refinement cycle, which is about 1375 to 1400 degrees, and then I let it cool, call it done. You could do as many grain refinement cycles as you want. There's like animes that say I was, normalized 1 billion times, or I was tempered 100 times, or whatever. There's ways that people make katanas, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff. But for these, I typically just do 1600 degrees, let it cool, 1400 degrees, let it cool. But you can go 1600, do your normalizing, and then grain refine at 1575, let it cool, 1550, let it cool, 1525, let it cool, 1500, let it cool, 1475, let it cool, all the way down to like 1250 degrees, and do that many grain refinement cycles, and then go ahead, bring it up to the temperature that you need to before quenching, and quench it. So you can do a bunch of grain refinement cycles. Is it necessary? I would say no, it's not really necessary, but a lot of people will do a 1600 and then a like 1500 to 1525, a 1400 and like a 1350 or a 1300, and then they'll bring it up to 1500 degrees and quench it in their Parks 50 or AAA. So you got a few different things like that, a few different routes you can go, but there are several steps. And I'll tell you, what makes you a great knife maker is knowing that you need to anneal your steel after you get done abusing it, knowing that you need to normalize it. Now, if you're just going to do stock removal, you don't technically need to anneal the steel. It's already technically in its factory specs whenever you get it, a lot of the times. Sometimes you'll need to anneal it just because if the steel is laser cut, you have a lot of times where that steel can get super hot and cool, air cool, and the edge of it, if you're going to be using like a portaband saw or something like that, the edge of the steel will be too hard for your portaband saw to cut through, and you'll shear the teeth off your portaband saw and waste a blade. So there are going to be times when maybe it might be useful to anneal it just to make it easier on you, or you can just use cut-off wheels on an angle grinder. But the only time you really need to anneal is if you're going to be forging. A lot of the steels are going to be they're going to be in their annealed state whenever you get them. But if you are, let's shut this door right here so I'm not getting cold. So if you want to make a good knife, you want to be able to focus on normalizing. You want to be able to focus on doing your grain refinement cycles. You want to be able to focus on making sure that you're bringing your steel up to the right temp for the right amount of time before you quench it. You want to make sure you're using the right quench medium, and you want to make sure you use the right tempering cycles. That is what takes something from a knife-shaped object to a knife tool, to something that is going to have good edge retention. Normalizing, grain refining, good heat treat, good temper is the difference between something that is a knife-shaped object that you can get from a gas station, or a high-quality knife that you're going to pay three, four, five, all $500 all the way up to like $1,500 or more. You have to do all of those cycles in order to get to that high quality knife. It's super important. If you don't do those things, then you're not going to have a high quality knife. There's a lot of if you're going to read books about knife making, the metallurgy, the stuff that you're going to learn within taking the steel and making something that is a super useful tool with the right hardness, those are the things you want to read. There's a whole bunch of books you can read on ergonomics and profiles and stuff like that, but the things that are going to help you learn your heat treat process, that is going to be killer for you. The rest of the stuff you can learn as you go through and you do your stuff, getting handle profiles and seeing what's comfortable, making something that's not comfortable, being able to modify it into something that is comfortable and go, oh, that's what I should have changed. Then you can start learning from your process. Same thing with blade profiles, geometry, things like that. A lot of those things come with time, but just like a Rubik's Cube, you're not just going to grab a Rubik's Cube and just figure out how to solve a Rubik's Cube. There's algorithms. There's so many ways that you got to turn the damn thing to be able to solve the Rubik's Cube by the end. If someone doesn't show you the algorithms and you just happen to solve it by happenstance, well, that's awesome. That doesn't really happen. So there's algorithms that help you. You need to learn those things to be able to solve that and get to the end result. When it comes to knife making, the metallurgy is, again, what makes it from basically a mild piece of steel. Might as well be, even though it's a high carbon steel. If you don't heat treat it right, it's going to have a soft edge. So something that is just a knife shaped object or something that is a knife. All right, TED Talk. I found doing much more than 2 refinement cycles is not generally needed. Correct. Yeah, well, so you're going to have tons of different steels that do require certain things to make it better, especially when you get to the really complex steels with a lot of, the different things in them. And the funny thing is the amount of people who think that 1095 is the beginner steel when really it's not the beginner steel. People should not be trying that right off the bat. Plasma is a real bastard for that kind of thing. Yep. Lasers are fine. Yeah, and there's a lot that are cut, but all it is whenever they do cut the steel down, it heats up that edge, and then when it air cools, it air hardens, and that sucks. So I made some blades from 1970 Dodge Dart leaf springs. It turned out fantastic. Old spring still, something special. Yep. So a lot of the stuff that you can get leaf spring wise, you can actually research the year, make, and model that they come off of to figure out what the leaf springs were made out of. Especially the older stuff. A lot of people have already done the research and things like that. So if you could find what the actual vehicle that the springs came off of, makes it a lot easier. The cool thing is you can use leaf spring material if you have it. I've got a lot of leaf spring material. I have fun forging things out of it. Now, I have a very specific style of leaf springs that I work with that I know for a fact that they're 5160 and that for a fact that they work because I've done all my heat treat processes and done all my tests and done everything with them, and I got a bunch of it whenever I got them. So I've made several knives. But I also use a lot of known steel. There's 4 bars, 4 foot bars right there. Round bar, technically it's a hexagonal bar. And then I've got 3 26C3 by 2 inch bars. I've got another 52-100. And then underneath this little multi-hold one, I've got a 4 foot bar of Pops 8670. And then I have more steel over here on the back of the workbench. So I have a bunch of known steel that I use because depending on what I'm making, I want to know 100% what it's going to be, if I'm making a camp knife or whatever, if I'm making a chef's knife, you're going to have a lot of the 26C3 that I use. That's going to be chef knives. Now, that 26C3, I get it in a little bit bigger stock so that I can forge it down if I want to, if I want a taller knife. And but you can get it in thinner stuff as well. Found if you want leaf springs, practically new. A lot of 4x4 shops would give them to you. Yep. Especially for all the Jeeps and things like that that went from leaf spring setups to 4 links. So you'll have a whole bunch of lift kits that eliminate the leaf springs and they go to a 4 link with shocks and struts and all that. So you get a better travel and everything like that. And the people like the 4 links. But yeah, so many people will give you leaf springs. The moment that you say anything about the fact that you'll make a knife out of a leaf spring, you will have 40 people going, hey, I got leaf springs in my shop. Can you come pick them up? I don't want them anymore. They're just sitting there collecting dust. Can you please come over here and buy and take this from me? I'll give them to you for free. You'll have a lot of people do that. Same thing with like farrier's rasps. As soon as like 5 people find out that you use farrier's rasps to make knives, some people will give you them every week until you're like, okay, I've got 50 farrier's rasps. I don't need any more. Thank you for offering them. But I will show you. So when it comes to farrier's rasps, here, hold on, I'll show you something. So I got this one from Jason Fry. So this is a Nicholson farrier's rasp, but this is going to be really cool because it is the rough rasp on both sides. So what's cool about farrier's rasp knives, let's see here. This little one that I was screwing with a while back. So when you grind them, you get all these cool triangles, but on this side, it's just a file. Not as cool. Triangles on this side, not as cool because it's just a file. With this particular one, it's triangles on both sides. I'm super pumped about that. This is going to be cool. I haven't made a farrier's rasp knife in a little while, but I'm excited about making that one. I think it's going to be cool. Do you have any Hamones with the 26C3? What's up, Steve? Yes, one of the best Hamones I've ever been able to do with a knife was with a chef knife that I did with 26C3. It was absolutely awesome. Absolutely amazing. Chris, do you remember sending me some steel? So that 26C3 was the first 26C3 that I ever worked on or worked with, and I was able to get a Hamon on it, and I just went, whoo, I love this stuff. So now I have a whole bunch of 26C3. I buy them in chunks like this right here, 3/16 thick, and yeah, 26C3 right there. And yes, this stuff right here makes an amazing kitchen knife, chef's knife, and I absolutely love it, and it creates beautiful Hamons. The auto Hamons are actually pretty cool too, so even when you don't try and make a Hamon, you can get some pretty cool looking random auto Hamons. So you get some cool little patterns like that right there on them. These are both 26C3 right here. So you get some cool little patterns, little bit of uniqueness to them. Yeah, 26C3, if you're trying for a Hamon, all you really need to do is clay the spine and then quench it, call it done. And you'll get a nice, beautiful, it is so crisp too. I mean, it puts a line almost like you mustard etched the line into it. It's nuts. Yeah, it was super defined. It was one of my favorite. Like, I've done several knives that have Hamons, but that thing was like you took a marker and you drew the Hamon on it. It was ridiculous. You can actually, if you go into my YouTube channel, I think if you type in 26C3, that you'll see, but I think it'll be the video that's titled Making My First Hidden Tang, because that was also the first knife that I did a hidden tang on. And I used Mocha Magane that I made for the bolster, and then I used some Tasmanian myrtle for the handle that Chris sent and everything. It was a beautiful knife. I love that knife, and awesome customer has that now, and they absolutely love it. I have leaf springs from Mobile Home. I'm guessing are 5160. So definitely make sure, Steve, that you actually check to see if those are 5160. Some of the mobile homes still, like the leaf springs, will be different types of steel. I've got a whole bunch of them. Because I did RVs for a while, so I've got some travel trailer leaf springs that are like varied from about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch thick, and I'm going to be cutting them down and making a few knives out of them and snap testing them and all that stuff just to see how it goes. But yeah, you might just want to check and see if you can research that and see if they're 5160, because not all leaf springs are 5160. You'll have some that are going to be different steel materials, especially if they're new trailers or motorhomes or mobile homes. It's awesome. I've been considering giving 26C3 a try. Definitely going to have to pick some up. Use 26C3. You will absolutely love it. The heat treat is not very complicated. There are several videos and several forums that will tell you how to heat treat it. But you can heat treat 26C3 in a forge all day. So I love that particular part of it. I did get some more fun steel from Chris, and I'm going to be working with that. I've got a few different things that I'm going to be playing with, but 26C3 is awesome. I would probably say one of the most, I'm not going to say it's underrated because it's used very broadly, but not typically by itself. 15N20. So if you're getting into knife making and you want some good steels to have a variety but have the same heat treat, you want to do 1080, 1084, 15N20, 5160, 80 CRV2, and if you want to branch out after that into 26C3 or something like that, you can. But that's going to be your main ones: 1080, 1084, 15N20, 5160, 80 CRV2. Those have very similar heat treats. They can all be done in a regular forge, and it is super, super, super simple. So if you're going to get into it, do those. Don't do 1095. Don't try and do the tool steels and all that stuff, or 52100. Don't go that direction. If you're going to get into knife making, start with steels that are very similar to use, very similar to heat treat, so that you can kind of perfect that process. But yeah, I love those steels. But one of the most underrated steels ever is 15N20. People typically just use it to get that high contrast between the 1080 or 1085, 1084, and 15N20 for Damascus or pattern molded steels. They use the 15N20 as the layer that shows up and shines because the nickel content in it doesn't let it etch and get dark like the high carbon 1080, 1084. But 15N20 makes an amazing chef's knife, makes an amazing kitchen knife, has a lot of corrosion resistance. 15N20 is awesome. If you're wondering how much corrosion resistance it has, understand that whenever you dip that knife into ferric chloric acid, that acid eats through the 1080, the stuff that we're making knives out of to be super freaking strong. 1080, 1084, 1095, 80 CRV2, that acid eats those steels, but doesn't phase the 15N20. So if you're going to have something that's going to be dealing with a lot of acids, cutting a lot of tomatoes, cutting a lot of onions, cutting a lot of acidic fruits and vegetables, 15N20 needs to be your jam. You know, it's a very unutilized steel. You can get it in a lot of different sizes and thicknesses, but that steel, it forges just like 1080. It heat treats just like 1080. And it has an insane, like Chris says right there, it's an insane toughness. You can get a super hard steel out of it, have amazing edge retention on a super fine edge. I'm talking about a chef's knife that was like a 16th of an inch on the spine, and then you bring it all the way down to a zero edge, and it's a super thin blade with a super thin edge that you can almost just strop and sharpen it. It'll keep that edge for a while. It's a very good steel. I've made several chef's knives, several kitchen knives out of it, and I absolutely love it. But you have a lot of people that think that 15 and 20 is just the shiny stuff on the Damascus, which is not necessarily accurate. Let's go ahead and fire this back up and put these blades that have cooled down back in, bring them up to 1400 degrees. Whew. Always let your forge come up to 10. Gotta go drop the kids at movies. Hey, it was awesome having you, Jason. Are you gonna be at Blade Show, Texas, Jason? If you're still here? Hopefully you are. Again, I'll be at table 13F. F is in Frank. 13F. That's the table I'm going to be at with all my stuff. So, it'll be me and Chad Kimmel. He's going to have some awesome chef's knives. We got a collaboration knife that's right here on the wall that we're going to be doing. I still got a couple of things I need to do to it before I can heat treat it. But yeah, I love 15 and 20. It's a very underutilized steel. I think the 1095 is overused. I really wish new knife makers wouldn't work with 1095 because it's like, can you get it to heat treat and harden to where it skates a file? Sure, but that'll just be the outside of it. And if you think of it as a case hardened file, a lot of files are 1095, but they're not. If they're most of the time they're 1095, they're not case hardened. But think of it as that, to where you can get the outside to be hard, but it'll have a super large grain structure on the inside if you don't actually do the things that you need to do. I'm happy that you're going to be there, Steve. If you don't do the right stuff with the 1095, y'all have heard me talk about it several times. Whenever I watch somebody, especially when they have a YouTube channel, and they go through and they bring that 1095 up to non-magnetic and test it with their magnet, and then they quench it in motor oil, it just makes me go, oh, what are you doing? 1095 has a soak time. It's finicky steel. If you want it to have a really good grain structure on the inside of it, you need to normalize it, grain refine it, put it in your forge, let it cook for at least 5 minutes in the forge before you quench it. Now, it's really useful to do that with the heat treat oven. If you have the ability to get a thermocouple on your forge to where you can actually make sure you have the right temp inside there, great, but you need to hold the temperature and soak it for a little while before you actually quench it. But most people bring it up to non-magnetic. It's just at non-magnetic, which is typically can be the wrong temp that you need it at, and then they just quench it straight in motor oil. They're not using Parks 50 or anything like that. And it's one of those things where if you do the research, you'll realize that 1095 is not the thing you want to mess with right off the bat. Okay, let's take the ones that are down here. Bring them up to 10. This will be the 1400 degrees. And we're going to be going with these. And then that'll be all we need prior to heat treating them tomorrow. Actually quenching them. Generally stick with 1080, 84, 1520, 5160, and a little 01. Yep. And then the mystery leaf springs, brass files, which is perfect. You'll see a lot of people who are master smiths. I say a lot of people. There's only so many master smiths, but you'll see people that are master smiths that only tend to work with a few different steels. Jason Knight If you watch any of his videos, there's a 90% chance that if he is forging a knife that day, that it is 80 CRV2. He uses the hell out of 80 CRV2. And you'll have people that use 52-100, and they use 90% 52-100. It's just the way people go whenever they know that they can do a knife out of that steel and it just be second nature because they've done so many out of it. They understand that. They understand all I gotta do is buy a whole bunch of this and I'll just sell a whole bunch of knives that are this, because I know how it forges, I know how it heat treats, I know its edge retention, and I can just go through the motions and make everything out of it and call it good. That's me with the 5160 that I use, the 80 CRV2 that I use, the 26C3, my, all the materials that I have in here, 1080. The hexagonal bar that's right here, that's a big bar, 4 foot long bar, hexagonal, 1080. And then you're going to have a 2-inch by 3/16 inch by 4 foot, a couple of bars of 1080, the flat stock, and then a couple of bars of 80 CRV2 flat stock. And then, of course, 8670 below this little guy, and then 52-100 right there, the longer bar that's sticking out. I don't really do many things out of 52-100, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you just want to make sure that you're actually doing things confidently and you're able to give somebody a good product, especially if you want to get to the point to where you're selling them. But sure, we can make knife-shaped objects like the people over in the Middle East that use the car hood material, if you want to call it that. I know that's the running joke, car hood Damascus. But you can make a lot of those things that go into a gas station. But if you want to make a $34.95, so $34.95 knife, cool, you can do that. But if you want to make a $350 to a $800 knife, make sure you use the right steel and the right heat treats. Oh, I know you'll do that, Chris. So whenever he sends me still, I love to do this. Look at that breakdown of what's going on in this. Absolutely awesome. Like, that's a breakdown. I love that. I can't wait to work with that stuff, man. It's going to be cool. I also use a little wrought iron for certain things. Yep. I've got the project that I am starting the day that I get back from Blade Show is the Viking Challenge, which we'll be releasing a video soon talking about the launch of that challenge. We just started getting everybody together on it. So the Viking Challenge will start here pretty soon. For anybody who's going to participate in it, but I'm going to be using a wrought iron for the guard and the pommel. So I got to make a singular knife out of 3.5-hour weights, or out of like 3 5-pound weights. Wow. So when it comes to wrought iron, I really like the way that it looks whenever you do cladding and all that stuff. It's really cool. Find them all out, forge weld them, stock removed. So, Doug, was it all wrought iron, or was it just was it wrought iron cladding over a bar of steel? The Apex Ultra is pretty good. Sadly, pretty expensive. So, yeah, I don't know. I saw that. I looked it up and I was like, oh, thank you for that. I'm excited about the Apex Ultra. All right. Let's see here. on the money. Straighten it out just a hair more. Oh, they like cheap weights. I'm doing mild steel. Yeah, I can see that. I watched. So I watched a Forged in Fire episode. As a friend of mine, Josh Ferran, and Neil Warren. There was an episode that they're on, and they had to cut sledgehammers down and forge them out to the knives that they were working on, and then use the sledgehammer handles to make their handles for their actually knives and all that stuff. It was crazy. Use a sledgehammer to make a knife. Never thought about that. Can only imagine. 16. Bring it down here. Structure of a peach. Yeah, I bet that would be super awesome. Heard that you can't forge cast iron. So when it comes to cast iron, I wouldn't mess with that stuff. Now, of course, doing wrought iron's a pain in the butt too. Like forge welding it or working with that, it sucks because all those like the grain structures or the strands that are in that wrought iron, those things want to peel apart like crazy. Okay. But yeah, so a couple of things that I got to work on this week is finishing the hand sanding on the handles for the other 3 knives, put edges on all those. Well, I'll most likely do the sheaths for them and then put the edges on them. And then I've got to get through the knives that I'm working on right now, and I'll be good. I'm trying to get as much of this stuff knocked out as possible so that I can spend the part of February leading up to Blade Show just doing sheaths. I've got to make a bunch of leather sheaths. I got to make a bunch of Kydex sheaths, and I got to get all those knocked out. Make sure I have clips on the ones that need clips, all of that stuff. So, man, February is going to be sheath month. I won't be doing any more. I'll still be doing the Shop Talk Tuesday builds, but I won't be doing I won't be making any other knives leading up to that. I'm going to finish the knives that I have right now so I can bring them with me. What's up, Mule? How you doing? Just bringing some knives up the tent so that I can finish normalizing and grain refining and all that. I'm excited about this build. So this is one that I'm going to try and get finished up by this next Shop Talk Tuesday. As I drop them. Ugh. You should have saw that. They dropped, and I acted like I was going to catch them. And so they're dropping, and I was like, sure. That's how far they were. I was nowhere near catching them. So using these right here on this build. This is the one we forged in the live stream, the one that was like that. So it's going to have black liners, black pins, and I think it's going to look really cool. I think that profile is awesome. That turned out so good. And for how big of a knife that is, it is super light because we forged everything down, and it's got distal tapers going all the way from the ricasso down to the end of the handle of the tang, and then a distal all the way through to the tip. It's awesome. Their forge up, wrought iron, but outside of creative. And their backyard is hard to find. Yeah, it is definitely hard to find. Okay. Shift these around real quick. Oh, that's good. Good there. Go ahead and bring the chopper. That's such a good profile. This is one of the ones that I want to keep because this is out of the Willys Jeep leaf spring. But I'm almost 100% sure that someone's going to end up buying this at Blade Show. I wish I could keep it. You know, it's not what knife makers are supposed to say. We're not supposed to say that we want to keep any of our... Start melting stuff over here. We're supposed to say we're trying to sell the knives. We got stuck up on the anachronism. Yes, anachronism. Did you see that? Whenever I was reading it, and I was like, creative and yep, backyards, That's what we do, man. You gotta make stuff in your backyard. You know, I always tell people, man, using your hands is where it's at. Building this shop was one of the most satisfying things that I've done in a decade. Other than, of course, having my kids. Well, my wife having my kids. I didn't have them. But getting my children, that was probably the best thing. I wouldn't say probably. That's the best thing that's happened in the last decade. But whenever Nisha watches this, she'll go, yeah, that's what I thought. So building this shop, doing something with my own two hands, that was so satisfying and gratifying and all of the above. And whenever we get finished with the grinding room and I can finally open this wall up and get the door set up for it, because I've already got everything kind of where I want it. I just need to finish doing the workbenches, like the placement of them and all that. And then I'm going to cut the hole in the wall, put the door up, and get the ventilation set up for it, for the filtration system that I'm making myself. It is just something else and I did contribute to the fun part of having the kids. My wife got to contribute to the painful part. Well, also the fun part, you know, I don't want to discredit myself. So the building the shop is just something else. You know, whenever you get to go out into your shop and it's the thing that you created and it's set up how you wanted it and it's just a good thing that is just awesome. Like, there's something about that is just so satisfying. What's up with the Viking Challenge? Haven't heard any info yet. So we just got everybody to select that, yes, they were going to participate in it. So we should be good. Dennis sent out all the emails saying, hey, Viking Challenge is about to start. Are you down to be in it? Of course, I said yes. And so we should be starting that process here shortly. And it's going to be cool. I think it's going to go from February to April. And I'm really ready to start my project. two are going back in here. I realized that one of the things that I did was I brought these back up to 1600 and not 1400. Whenever I brought them out, I don't know why I had it in my mind that they needed to be 1600. So I did a 1600 then a 1600. We're going to go ahead and put them back in there, get them up to 1400 and let them cool. All of these that are up here have been taken up to 1400, between 1375 and 1400, and now they're cooling. And I just want to bring these back up to that same temp and then put them down there and let them cool. What am I using? So this is just your Amazon special BT meter, BT 1500. The range is negative 58 Fahrenheit all the way up to 2732 Fahrenheit, or negative 50 Celsius up to 1500 Celsius on there. So this is a high temp laser thermometer. One of the things that you need to think about when you're going to use something like this is do not store this next to your forge, and do not, when you're checking the temp, don't check it this close. Check it back here. Check it right here. What's up, Pinto? So check it like right here. What'll actually happen is there's going to be two dots that are going to come out of this. Two little laser dots. They actually cross and intersect at one point. If you just check it where they cross over, you're great. But if you get this too close to a heat source, this plastic will heat up, and it can heat up to 100, 150 degrees. And if this is hot, this blue piece, it will throw the temperature off of the thing that you're actually checking. So if this is 100 to 150 degrees, it'll think that you're still, what's up, Jason? What's up, Eli? If you are checking the temperature on it, it'll say that your steel is 100 to 150 degrees warmer than it actually is, because it's reading the temperature off of this on top of the temperature that your material you're working with this. So you want to hold it away, make sure you put it away, make sure it stays cool, so that the temperature of the actual laser gun itself doesn't affect the laser or the temperature of what you're actually checking. And here is just a second, I'm going to tell you what pinto sauce is if y'all listen to the podcast. And how about this? Pinto. Do you want to tell them what the pinto sauce is? Seeing how nobody will be, if anybody decides to use it, it's like a disclaimer. Use it at your own risk. I'll do that right there if Pinto wants to say what it is. The old pinto sauce. It's the type of thing that he quenches his blades in. Just quench it medium. Boom. Right on the money. Keep over. I'll pay attention to this for a second because it's only going to take a very short period of time for that to heat up to where I need to be. Boom. Right on the money. There we go. Okay. So, awesome field and building your own shop. I spent all day today welding up a metal workbench for my shop. Hell yeah. Speaking of temperatures, apparently it got to negative 50. Negative 60. Holy what? Negative 40? What on earth? Okay, dang, negative 40. Screw that. That's ridiculous. I'm over here, it's like single digits outside. It's like maybe 8, 9 degrees outside right now. That sucks. That is way better than negative 40. What the hell? That's ridiculous. Those numbers shouldn't even technically exist on a temperature scale. So, pinto sauce. If y'all wanted something different, he swears by this as a quenchant medium. Okay? Some of y'all may have tried it. You know, he's from Brazil, and they do it a little different in Brazil. Okay? Let's say you can't get access to Parks 50, which pretty much anybody can get access to Parks 50. And you wanted something that was going to handle business. What Mr. Pinto uses is diesel. So he quenches everything that he has in diesel. So he treats it just like everything else, bring it up to 120 degrees. He uses a turkey fryer, so like an actual turkey fryer. And he heats it up with that, gets it to temp, 120 degrees, and then he quenches his blades in diesel fuel. So if anybody, -5 in Kansas, God damn, that's ridiculous. If anybody wanted to try and use that, you can. Will it flare up? Yes, but it shouldn't flare up any more than Parks 50. If you've ever quenched in Parks 50, you understand that Parks 50 lights on fire. You will get a flame across the entire top of that quench tank, and you will have to cover it to put it out, or you got to put your blade all the way in. And once you get your blade all the way in the quenchant, so let's say you quench the entire thing, tang everything, typically you won't get that flare up, so you just go straight in, quench the entire blade, tang everything all at once. Shouldn't really have to worry about it. A lot of people tend to only quench the blade, and if you only quench the blade, you will get a flare up just like Parks 50. Some people think that it might be more dangerous than Parks 50. That's because people haven't seen the amount of flames that you can get off Parks 50. So Parks 50 is hellacious. It's not like AAA where you can just bloop, you get a little bit of flash of flame, and then it's like it dies down almost instantly. So use it at your own risk. I haven't used the diesel yet, but I plan on it, and I want to try it out, see how it goes. But you know, if you decide that you want to do it, you want something that's going to be pretty comparable to Parks 50. Now, of course, he quenches pretty much, not pretty much, I'm pretty sure he quenches everything in diesel. But that's something to definitely try out if you want to try it out. How brave are you? I would suggest, if you're going to do it, that you don't put your diesel in a PVC tube or a plastic cup or a glass jar. Don't do that. Put it in a big metal container that can't catch on fire. So if you're going to do it like that and quench the whole entire blade. PVC is not good, not at all. But I see some people, I saw a person quench a knife in a red Solo Cup. It was on a YouTube short. He was making a knife with basically hand tools, super simple, using files and stuff like that, and made a knife blade about 3 inches long. He did a saltwater brine solution and quenched that blade in a red Solo Cup. I was like, all right, Mr. Thug, that's a thing, I guess. You can't just double stack your cups anymore. You got to quench stuff in them. Been quenching in water. It's scary, but it's been working out. Oh yeah, this one, that was calculated survival. My experience with diesel fires usually comes with them being under pressure, vaporous. Yeah, so would I suggest quenching your blade in a diesel gas tank or a diesel fuel tank? No. Don't do that. That would not be a good experience. But could you absolutely quench in a 1 gallon paint can? Sure. or in something like a turkey fryer or something that's going to be a bigger, deeper thing that has a nice open lid or nice open top. Quenching that, it's not going to be pressurized. It'll flare up a little bit, but again, if you ever use Part 50, you've seen me do it in the videos. I mean, it flames up. Whew. Smokes out my whole entire shop, all that. So it's just as crazy. I bet if you have Parts 50 in a pressurized container, that it would explode if you caught it on fire and it wasn't like a paint can that was sealed and it got hot enough. I bet you that stuff would just absolutely explode. But something to think about if you want to get a little froggy and try something a little different. Try quenching in the old diesel, the old pinto sauce. So for any of y'all, now you know. You gotta stab it all the way in. I read that in your voice, Pinto. I read that in your voice. Your voice came across through my head and was like, I'm not going to try and repeat it how it was said, but yeah. But yeah, it's something a little bit different. Something to think about. I'm happy I was able to get these things knocked out. I was wondering about getting them done tonight with the normalizing process and then going ahead and being able to quench them tomorrow morning. So I'm going to heat them up, quench them, call it good. I'm going to take my my quenchants and I'm going to take them inside the house so they can stay warm because even though my shop should be about 60 degrees in here with the heater on and all that stuff overnight, I don't want to have to heat the quench takes up too much. Froggy, yeah. Froggy's that's a term. Whenever you're getting a little jumpy, if you want to get a little spicy, get a little froggy. Give me some sideways forging tomorrow. Aqua quench is a water-based quenchant. You dilute down to suit the speed. Huh. Nearly water to mid-speed for tool steels. Aqua quench. I'll look into that. I have done a water quench, edge quench, a few different times. So I've done the edge quench to where you want to get a nice hamon on some 1095 or something like that, where you can actually go in and quench the edge real quick. So you go like half a second in the water on the edge into the oil. Doop, doop. And you will get a hamon that way. And instead of quenching the whole entire blade in water, you just go edge, oil. And that's one way to do it. I've done that a couple of times and it's worked out pretty well. What's up, OG? The OG Frenchie. How you doing? I was talking to my my stepdad about doing a couple of friction folders, and I've got the design roughly drawn out that I want to do with the friction folder. I think my friction folder, my first one, is going to be a little bit ridiculous because why wouldn't it be? Anytime I try to do something for the first time, I just say, screw it, I'm going to swing for the fences, and I'm just going to make something that's absolutely cool because I can't help myself. So I've got a really cool idea for what I want to do with my first friction folder. I think it's going to turn out really cool, and I think y'all are going to like it. That'll be one of the builds that we start whenever we get back from Blade Show, Texas. And again, my table, Blade Show, Texas, 13F. I'm going to be there with a guy named Chad Kimmel. We're going to have a whole bunch of my projects and everything like that. So if you want to come by, pick them up, hold them, check and see how I actually make knives and what they look like in person, do that. Let's see here. I quench in water because the only container big enough to quench in is my slack tub. Hey, do what you gotta do. Got my hamons and pinto sauce. I quench in a thong, a tank top, and Crocs. Hey, I'm telling you right now, you'll see a lot of knife makers. A lot of knife makers wearing some shorts, some tennis shoes, or some Crocs. So that ain't abnormal. I would be less worried about quenching in a thong tank top and Crocs than forging in a thong tank top and Crocs. I think forging a blade and wearing all that stuff would be a little bit nuts. So F for Frank. Yes, F for Frank. So yeah, so we're gonna have that table. I'm gonna have a whole bunch of the projects. I'm gonna have some of the stuff that y'all have seen on the channel, things like that, stuff that y'all can actually hold. You know, if you want to actually, I wouldn't say swing many of them around, but if you want to actually hold them, you want to actually mess with them, see what they're weighted like, see what they actually look like in person, see which ones you think are smaller than you thought they were. Because there's going to be some of them where you're like, oh, this is a lot smaller than I thought it was. And you're going to be like, oh, this is a lot bigger than what I thought it was. I thought I was a little knife. You're going to have some of the builds that are like that because, you know, the way video translates to people's eyeballs, it's going to be a little bit different. So you're going to have some of them that you're going to think are bigger than they are, but they're actually going to be smaller. You're going to have some of them that you're going to think are smaller than they are, and they're going to be a lot larger. You know, and if it wasn't ridiculous, I'd be bringing the old spike bat, but not bringing that. It's gonna be cool. Hopefully, I get to hang out with y'all. One of my best experiences when it comes to going to blade shows is being able to talk to the people who watch the channel. Love that aspect of it, and the fact that I'm gonna be pretty much stuck to a table for both the days. That means y'all can come by and talk as much as y'all want. So I think it's gonna be fun. It'll be easy to find me. You won't have to sit there and try and hunt around and go, does that guy look like Eric? Does that guy look like Eric? I think that guy looks like, is that guy over there Eric? Maybe he's wearing a hat. You won't have any of that because you'll just go to 13F and you'll see a person that looks like me, a person that looks like Matt Rich, and then a person that looks like Chad Kimmel, which if you'll just look up Chad Kimmel on Instagram, you'll see what he does. So, safety Crocs, always good for welding too. Get some steel toe Crocs. All it is a whole bunch of pieces of steel. You know how they have those little things that pop into the Croc little breathing holes. They do spikes and all that stuff, and it's just little steel plates. They go in all those holes. That would be hilarious. And just a little bit of armor on the toe. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. You know, this is the first show that I'm actually showing my stuff at, and I'm really excited to see what y'all think about it. You know, actually have people hold the knives and feel them. I've had several friends do it, and they all love them. But this will be something different where I can have way more people actually put them in their hands and see what they think about them and make sure that they think that they actually are as cool as maybe they thought they were or not as cool as they thought they were. How to TRE, all here tonight. Curious. Anywhere here showing at the Spirit of Blade, CKS in Troy, Ohio, or Spirit of Still Kansas and Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I am not, but I think that those shows will sound cool. I'm going to have to look into those. I'm in North Texas, so am I super far away from that? Not really, but kind of. Wish you had shows like this in Western Canada. Yeah, I don't know. How are knife shows and stuff like that in Canada? You know, there's something that you don't think of with Canada. You don't think of knives and you don't think of guns that much whenever you think of Canada. I know y'all have to have firearms. That's too much land, just random land for you to not have firearms. I know that it's kind of weird. Canada is weird when it comes to their laws and things like that, but especially compared to Texas. In the state of Texas, I can walk around with a 3-foot sword on my back, open carry, and go into Walmart. 3-foot sword. It's ridiculous. If I want to walk around with my AR-15 on a sling, walk around the store. It's ridiculous and awesome all at the same time. Now, people don't typically walk around with ARs like that, but you can. And you can have brass knuckles, switchblades, bats, whatever you want with you at any time. It's amazing. Alberta is the Texas of Canada. Had a nice piece of forge skill burned into my chest tonight. That's no fun. So I get forge skill burns on my hands, on my neck. I've had it go back here, and then I've got it on the few random times where I wore like ankle socks and like my little hey dudes and whatnot, where it like burns my ankle. I've had that happen. But of course, I've also been the wonderful guy who has forged and had a blade that was still red hot, hit on it, and it come up and smack me in the nose whenever it was still glowing red, and it instantly seared my nose. It was crazy because it popped me in the face, and I thought, oh, that's not good. And I got it on film too. But yeah, it just came right across the nose, hit me in the glasses. If I didn't have my glasses on at that time, it would have went straight past, it hit my nose, and it went straight into my eye. And it would have done some bad damage to that. But luckily, it just seared across my nose, instantly cauterized it, and burned my glasses a little bit. Ooh, while I still have y'all on here, because I still got a few more minutes, I did want to ask y'all a question. What's y'all's opinion, because we have other people here, what is y'all's opinion on drilling all of the holes? Because like I was talking about earlier, I do the fullers in here to save some weight and create pockets for epoxy to be able to get a good bond. What's y'all's opinion on that? Do y'all drill the 45,000 Swiss cheese holes into your tangs? Or would y'all prefer that if you're going to have a full tang, that it be as close to a full tang as possible and not Swiss cheese? Frank, brass knuckles are a pretty shit weapon. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. But I will tell you this. The cool thing about brass knuckles is whenever you are holding them in your hands, it is very hard for somebody to get them out of your hands. You're not just going to smack it out of your hand or anything like that. A knife or a gun, somebody could strip that from you. But if you have brass knuckles on your hands and you're smart, you're not trying to just box somebody with brass knuckles, and you understand that you can hammer fist with brass knuckles, you can hit this way with brass knuckles, that no matter how you hit with brass knuckles, you're going to be fine, then you're pretty confident. Because if I had no anything and I just have my fist, could I be fine? Sure. But brass knuckles, you hit somebody with steel with the force of your fist, and you narrow that down to about half an inch worth of steel going across your hands or brass or whatever you're going to make it out of, you will absolutely crush somebody's eye socket. You will collapse the orbital socket. You'll come up here, collapse this. You'll split a jaw in half, separate it completely, crush a cheekbone, break the ridge of your nose. It's rough. I've seen it happen. Whenever I was younger, my life was a little rough. My family's life got a little crazy, and we fought a whole bunch of people, my siblings and I, for several years. So what happens whenever a couple of gangs decide that they want to pick on your family, even though we were not in gangs, and you just have to defend yourself for a lot of years. Go through car chases. My wife's been in 2 car chases in her entire life, and both of those were whenever we were engaged. people trying to attack me and jump me, and yeah, not fun experiences. I've been stabbed several times, shot at and hit with brass knuckles. Let's see here. I don't really care if you do. I drill holes, but not a bunch. Yep. Like tapered tangs, same. I don't care for the Swiss cheese effect. Agreed. Having epoxy pass through is a good idea. Yep. I like the idea of fuller better. Put fullers, save the drill bits, 100%. Roughneck hair. Yeah, if y'all ever saw a picture of me whenever I was like 20 years old, you would go, that makes no damn sense. I look like a completely different person. I had big old gauges in my ears. I actually had my ears cut, and then they removed a wedge out of it because my ears were really gauged out. They were an inch and a half circle, so an inch and a half across circles, and yeah, they were big holes, and I looked like a ruffian. When my wife saw me, I have no idea. Uh, Knife Stimplers is a gang. Might as well be. We have matching shirts and all that. Other than that, completely normal guy. Yep. Just a knife maker, life insurance salesman. Yep. Well, I've been very normal for a very long time. I'll put it this way. I am friends to this day, close friends with people who both jumped me whenever I was younger, stabbed me, shot at me, and I am friends with them. I know their kids. Their kids know my kids. They go to the same school. We are very friendly, talk all the time. So, yeah, it's crazy how life goes whenever people make horrible decisions in their teens. And, for us, me and my brothers, it really didn't have anything to do with us. One of my brothers dated a girl, okay? Dated a girl who just happened to be cheating on her gang member boyfriend for Northside Crip in this town. There's two main gangs back then. It was PLM, like Pure Little Mafia or whatever, a whole bunch of Hispanics, and Northside Crip. And for some reason, both of them decided they were going to just make our lives a living hell. You could probably make a movie about it. And so in high school, I was in easily 100 fights. I've been jumped several times. When I turned 18, I was jumped by 14 people. My mom called the police on them. The police arrested me because I put 3 of them in the hospital. Real story. I had to go and get all that taken off my record in order to get my license to carry back whenever that was actually a thing. So I had to, because all the charges were dropped and everything like that whenever they realized that a few people testify saying that they actually enticed me to come over to where they were at. That's the reason why I was arrested, because I went to where their group of people were at. Like, I wanted to go fight 14 people, and then they jumped me in front of my mom. How she didn't shoot them, I have no idea, because she had her gun in the car. But she called the police. The police came. 3 of them went to the hospital. I didn't go to the hospital. I just had like shoe prints all over my back, and my knees were banged up, and my elbows were banged up. But yeah, it was interesting. Straight out of Compton. Yeah, Wichita Falls, Texas. Thug life. Ain't nobody ever even heard about this town other than the fact that the Shepherd Air Force Base is here. It's ridiculous. Arrested for self-defense. Yes. Now, if they would have had cameras back then, of course, this was a long time ago. This is when people, like, the only cell phones you had was the Nokia, like, super solid phones with, like, the flashy antennas. I take this opportunity to exact revenge. I hold grudges. Oh, man. Country boys can survive. Pretty much. Easy E, I'll tell you right now. My nickname was E for a very long time. So it's funny how all of that works. It's just interesting. I've got scars and all that stuff for defensive wounds and everything, and I'm a very confident fighter. I've done Muay Thai, I've done Jun Fan Gung Fu, I've done Kali Silat, which is stick and knife fighting, and I've done several things like that for a while, and it was good, and then a whole lot of practice fighting. So yeah, yay! But with all that said, Swiss cheesing your tangs. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Swiss cheesing thing. I see some people do it, and I see them put like 40 holes is what I feel like is in there, even though there's probably only 10 to 15. But I can only imagine how much hell that puts on your drill bits and how many drill bits those people go through at any given time. I only drill X amount of holes through mine, and I use, drill fluid and all that stuff, the actual oils and everything for holes whenever I'm drilling them, and it still gets a little rough. So I just don't think that Swiss cheese, if it's done right, I just don't think I'd want to do that. Like the most that I'll ever put in some of them, like I'll show you one. I will do some of these weight relieving holes if the tang is too narrow for me to be able to put a fuller in it. So I'll typically do that. Do the weight saving holes for there, or I'll put the holes in a specific spot to make sure that the weight is actually going to be in the right areas. If you look at this one, the way that this is going to end up working out, the weight saving holes that are in here are to save weight so that the balance is exactly where I want it to be when it's all said and done. That's the only reason why I do some of these, and I would rather do a few holes close together, decent distance away from the actual outside, and then chamfer them, bevel them down, and have the holes not be super big, but just take as much weight as I can out of it, and it still be something that works out real well. And then be able to take a decent fuller out of here. This is going to be weighted right at the ricasso, which is going to be really, really, really nice. It's going to be nice and even there. But I'll go through and I'll mess with stuff like that just to make it make sense. But I see some people who will put so many holes in them. I'm just sitting there going, man, that's too much. You're going to burn through all your drill bits. And if you got to do that a whole bunch of times, you're crazy. Kyle Daly must use some of the best drill bits in the game because he puts like 8 pins in his handles, and then on top of that he has like relief holes and all that stuff. Only imagine he's using like some crazy machinist drill bits, or he goes through a lot of drill bits. Makes beautiful knives. Does some of the best file work, and teaches how to do really good file work on knives, and makes a lot of cool tools for knife makers, which I really love. But yeah, he puts a lot of holes in his tangs, and I see a bunch of people do it, and I just think that's not for me. I'd rather do the fuller. I got the fuller idea from Jason Knight a little over a year ago, watching one of his videos where he did that in his old shop, and he was talking about it. And from that point forward, I've been doing fullers in a lot of the blades that I do, handle material wise, and it's not just doing the fullers. The handle material word that I just said there, a couple of words, made me think of it. I don't just do fullers on the tangs. I also will do a fuller on the back side of the handle scales, so it creates that little bit of a pocket on the back side of the handle scale as well. All right, I heard. See you later, Pinto. I'm about to get off of here. We're at about the 2-hour mark. I heard locksmith drill bits are really good. I haven't checked into that. I'd have to look into that and see what they are using for drill bits. I use the Cobalt DeWalt drill bits, or I guess you could say the DeWalt Cobalt drill bits. Not the Cobalt with a K from Lowe's, but the actual COBALT Cobalt. And I can get a lot of holes drilled with them, and it works out real well. I love them. So I keep the ones that I'm using normally in these little containers right here up on the wall. A lot of the main drill bits that I use. And then I have all the backups. And I've got my tapers in this drawer right here. All my other drill bits that haven't been used are right here. All the retired ones are in this bottom one down here. And by retired, I mean the ones that don't really drill through steel that well anymore, but drill through wood just fine. I've got those. But of course, I have a whole bunch of stuff because I did woodwork for a really long time. So I've got, I've got dowel drill bits. I've got a whole bunch of things that people typically don't have in their shops, just because doing woodworking and cabinets and all that stuff, you get a lot of woodworking tools that you don't typically have in your normal knife maker shop. It's pretty cool to have some of those because you never know when you're going to need to make a cabinet or something like that. Yeah, so I wish that I'd have done an actual heads up because I don't think I did a heads up at all for today, other than the fact that on the Shop Talk Tuesday, I said I was going to be live today at 7 Central Time, and on the last week's live stream, I said I was going to be live today on at 7. So just so you know, here's a heads up for you. Next Saturday at 7 Central Time, I'm going to do a live. And I'll try and remind y'all too. But just so you know, just think about it. Every single Saturday, there will be a live. Now, next Saturday, I said that I wasn't going to be forging anything else. That's how it goes around my neighborhood. Everybody has a V8 here. So if I'm not starting another project, like I'm not going to be making a whole nother build, but I will be forging a blade next Saturday. So tonight, of course, we use the forge to do all my normalizing and grain refinements. But next Saturday, I am going to be forging a blade. So 7 o'clock Central Time, be out here forging, and we're going to make a cool little blade so that I can actually work on it after the is it cold out there? Yes, it is. It's fine inside here because we've been we've been doing normalizing and all that stuff. So it's probably like 75 degrees in the shop right now. As soon as I walk outside, it's like 9 degrees. But for some reason, this shop retains heat very well. I don't know if it's because of the concrete floor or a little bit of insulation that I have on the walls, and then of course all the paneling and all that stuff, and the fact that only one wall, the wall that has the doors, that's the only wall that's exposed to wind. Behind this wall, there's a privacy fence that comes all the way up to here, and the wall over here, there's a privacy fence that comes all the way up to here. So wind doesn't really hit this building except for whenever it's blowing from the perfect angle towards the face of the shop. Because, of course, the wall that's behind the phone right now, that wall is the shop wall for my 12x12. It's actually not that bad. But, yeah, we are going to be forging next Saturday, 7 Central Time. I'll remind y'all again on this Shop Talk Tuesday. Hopefully I can get this build knocked out, finish the rest of the way. All I really need to do to it, this one right here, is we got to do Maker's Mark. Only reason why I don't have it done yet is because typically I would have started working on this on the Wednesday after the Shop Talk Tuesday episode released. I was waiting for the black pin stock to come in, and it came in yesterday. So I was waiting for the black liner material and pin stock from Pops, and it came in. So I'm going to go ahead and start messing with this tomorrow, and hopefully I'll have it done by Wednesday, because we just got to we've already heat treated and all that stuff. We just got to do Maker's Mark. We got to go ahead and do a vinegar soak, and then I just need to, Maker's Mark, hand sand, then vinegar soak, and then we'll go ahead and go from there. Might not be in all those orders. It'll be something different, but this is going to be hand sanded and all that, so I got to get it done. Got to get the handle material finished up on it. And because it's already semi pre-profiled, I don't have to do a ton of profiling on the handle. It's going to be pretty cool. I think it's going to be a cool looking handle. It's going to be textured, and I think it's going to look awesome. And I'm really excited about this blade. That is a beautiful profile. With all the fingerprints on it. So, yeah. Y'all will have a Shop Talk Tuesday. And I'm super excited that we're doing the Shop Talk Tuesdays again. We'll be doing that every single week for the rest of this year. We took that little bit of break whenever we were just getting used to the whole swing of things with being full-time knife maker. And now I'm full-time knife maker and life insurance person. So if y'all need life insurance, reach out to me if you're in the state of Texas. If you're not in the state of Texas, at least I can just answer questions and stuff like for you. So, see how that goes. Guys, let's go ahead and call it here. We're at the 2-hour mark. My mouth is getting dry. I need a drink. We're going to go inside and get a drink before I start puffing out dust. Guys, thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for participating in the comment section like normal. Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there. And I'll catch y'all on Tuesday. All right? See y'all.